Canada's standard of living is on track to be the lowest that it has been in 40 years. So let's unpack this. This is the second largest decline over the last 40 years, with the other two larger declines being from 1989 to 1992 and 2008 to 2009, both of which were massive recessions, one of which affected Canada more and one of which was global. And what we're seeing is an inflation-adjusted per-person GDP decline of just under $2,000, or 3%, which is still quite far from the 5% seen in these two scenarios. But that doesn't mean it's a good thing. Arguably, it's a bit of a larger concern. Since we were able to avoid a massive recession, we shouldn't be seeing decreases in quality of life this large. It should also be noted that GDP per person is not really a great indicator of living standards, but it's still pretty important. Another large reason for the decrease in per-person GDP is because of the mass amount of immigration that Canada has been seeing, with a lot of this being concentrated in places like Ontario and Quebec. And the current decline has been happening for 18 quarters or 4.5 years. So roughly the beginning of COVID. And so yes, arguments can be made that this is because of COVID and a result of it. While it's very easy to point the finger at the Liberals, I think we also need to look at the larger picture. The current economic structure that we have is leading to a concentration of wealth in the upper classes. Essentially, the rich are getting richer, the poor are getting poorer, and the middle class is seemingly non-existent anymore. If you do blame Trudeau and you are going to vote for Pierre in the future, I just ask you, start talking about the things that you would like to see from this new government. Because the truth is, modern liberal and conservative parties at the federal level tend to be very neoliberal. Essentially, they both follow a very similar economic theory and model, one that was introduced in the 80s under Reagan, Thatcher, and Mulroney. There's also a lack of support for small and medium-sized businesses. And this is a bit of a catch-22. We have to help them achieve economies of scale. But the industries that do have economies of scale, the larger businesses, tend to end up in an oligopoly or monopoly situation, which leads to weak business investment because they have no competition. This is the rough dichotomy of Canadian business. Businesses are more productive under competition, but because we face so much competition from the US, we don't want the US to outcompete our domestic businesses. So we allow for our domestic businesses to become larger, then they become oligopolies and they don't actually have any competition, so they're able to do and get away with whatever they want. There are real economic challenges and problems in Canada, and we have to start looking at solutions outside of what we have normally been doing over the last 40 years. Otherwise, we're really just looking at more of this.